It's great to see you all here. Great to see folks who were here last week too. That's diehard fans. We love that. Uh, and and I know that many of you were here last month when Dr. Nia Nunn presented the part one of this two-part series. This is Black Consciousness Explorations in Ithaca, a two-part series featuring Dr. Nia Nunn. Tonight, the title of the program is A Black Consciousness Curriculum in and Beyond February. I'm Jonathan Miller, as you can see from my little name tag, co-director of Storyhouse Ithaca, along with Leslie Green, who you've just heard from. Just very briefly, Storyhouse is a new organization devoted to bringing people together around stories. We're a project of the Center for Transformative Action. We're quite new, although we're sort of getting our legs under us. We are about stories and storytelling and different forms of story, but we're really about building community. It is our hunch, our sense that strong communities are built on people doing things together, talking to one another, creating with one another, having fun with one another, being in the same space with one another. And we have found that if you define story broadly enough, you can find all sorts of excuses to get folks together. So that's what we're doing.
So we've got a lot of programming coming up. Finally, we're going to be able to do some things in person. It's exciting. Starting in April, May is our Breaking Our Silence series. It's storytelling for mental health, and it involves movement workshops, storytelling events. There's going to be a documentary film showing. There'll be a performance where Reggie Carpenter will tell stories. Civic Ensemble will present part of the play on this theme. And there'll be the Ithaca High School Choir will perform other things, and there'll be dance. So that's May 21st. We're still nailing down the exact dates, but we'll let you know. And also you can check on our website for those events that are coming up soon. And just to say that we got support from the Community Arts Partnership and the sponsorship support from the Sophie Fund for this event. I got to get rid of this cat. So I'll turn it over to John while I get rid of the cat.
On the subject of programming, we're really excited about Breaking Our Silence, which just has all these different parts in it. But we're also pursuing this idea of Storyhouse Tuesdays, where we're going to try to have something interesting going on most Tuesdays, maybe eventually every Tuesday. But we'll sort of stake this time out, this time, 5:30 to 6:30 or to 7 on Tuesday afternoon, evenings. Seems to be a good time for a lot of people. One of the events that we're excited about is Story Night, which will be a traditional some storytelling event where you can come to just listen or come and give or tell stories. We'll be announcing that. I think we're going to start on May 3rd. That's the tentative date. More info to come. And the Placemakers series, this is actually the third event in the Placemakers series. Placemakers is the idea is creative placemakers, which is people who use arts and culture to build community. And there have been NEA grants for that and stuff in the past, but we're excited about Placemakers in Ithaca. There's so many people who are doing just that. And I wanted to let you know that this is the third. We've actually put the first two Placemakers talks, Dr. Nia Nunn from February, and then Leslie and I presented about Storyhouse, building a Storyhouse last week, and both of those videos are available on our YouTube channel. The best thing is to go to storyhouseithaca.org, and then I never find it, there's a YouTube icon on the upper right corner of the website, and it'll take you, and there's even a playlist for these. Maybe Leslie will put that in the chat.
I just put it in the chat too.
Okay, very good. Quickly, I don't expect you to memorize this. April 26th, we'll have This is Ithaca with Marietta Sinotis and Florence Gilly. They're doing a podcast about Ithacans, and they'll be the Placemakers featured people. That's April 26th, and then May 10th, The Soil Factory with Johannes Lehmann and my wife, Rebecca Nelson.
Great. Okay, now on to our wonderful, wonderful featured person here. Dr. Nia Nunn is an associate professor in the Department of Education at Ithaca College. She's president of the board of directors of Southside Community Center, and she's director of CUMEP, the Community Unity Music Education Program that you're going to hear more about today. She's an educator, performer, scholar, artist, mother, whose work honors and centers a curriculum of Black liberation and self-determination. And I put together the video of her talk last month, and I was just struck again by her energy, her positivity, and then not to mention like so many ways that she makes her community better. So we're very glad that she is back on our Placemakers series. Welcome. Thank you so much, Dr. Nia Nunn.
Hi, everyone. Greetings. What a joy. Thank you for the invitation to return. Thank you for the setup, right? You know, there's something extra special about, you know, being featured and recognizing these national months, right? And as we were exploring and talking, I was letting them know that, hey, at Southside, we celebrate Black women in February and March. So when I received the invitation, I said, I'll come in February, but I'm coming in March too. All right, so here I am in March, and it's a joy to be here, a joy to connect with you all, to talk a little bit more about CUMEP, to share that with you. I'm surveying this scene, and it's beautiful. We have like an intimate group of us, several of you that are familiar by name and even face, but there are also some new faces as well. And so I'm happy to reintroduce myself, ignore my messy desktop, but just to share who's presenting for you. And as it was mentioned, I'm up at IC, and I'm super excited about the work, actually the freedom, the liberation that I have to create at Ithaca College with students. But you know, I'm preparing teachers, so it's really about getting students off the Hill into the community. This is like little credential collage just to like pinpoint some of the key things that have been central to my rearing. And I always like to make sure I show these boys because, you know, they're just constant. I have these little men in my life, these teenage boys. They're hungry like every single day. No, my boys are fantastic. And my youngest one has actually been creating and leading quite a bit with CUMEP. And then the middle one is Rowan, my high schooler, and then my 18-year-old. See, his hat says adultish. That is my Eamon. And so last time when I gathered you all, I was introducing myself, but we also had an opportunity to reflect on your relationship with Blackness and some of the roots, some of the origins, what you were taught, some of the messages and things of that nature. And so I just wanted to bring that up again, just to acknowledge and thank you all for taking that journey. It's one that I invite many, many people on. In fact, I find it to be honestly a real authentic prerequisite to a lot of anti-racist work that is presented in the world. And so I'm really, really, you know, I'm proud and excited to kind of name it explicitly, and it doesn't just come from me. Right? So much of what I know and learned, and so much of who and what I am comes from my people. It comes from my parents, but it also comes from my ancestors. And so I always tell everyone that I feel like I was raised in with the privilege of Black culture. Right? So there was a way in which, like I talked about last time, my parents made sure that I saw myself, that I was centered, but something as simple as like, when I was in Atlanta and I went to Clark Atlanta University and I went to my first like real massive, beautiful museum, it was Jacob Lawrence. I'm like, Jacob Lawrence, didn't know the name. It didn't ring a bell. And then I walk into this professional, beautiful, amazing museum and see Jacob Lawrence images. And it turns out these are all the images I grew up with. There were images in my home, and I go into this museum and I just cried. You know, here I am being introduced to like strengthening, having exposure to the beauty of Black culture. I'm like, wait a minute, no, I'm in it. I am here. I know this. You know, I'll never forget, I'll tell one more story before I start sharing some videos with you about Kumep. But I remember there was an event at Beverly J. Martin, and there were Black women, there were 3 Black women that were presenting. And of course I introduce myself and make a connection with them. And when I connected with them, one of the women, she says, well, where are you from? And, I'm always doing cartwheels. I'm from Ithaca, born and raised, blah, blah, blah. And I was getting all into it. And then she's like, yeah, but like before that, I'm like, oh, okay, well, my mother's from Brooklyn, my father's from Buffalo. They chose Ithaca, said they wouldn't stay, but then they stayed and raised us here, and now they're stuck and they love it. And so, but then she asked me more. She said, no, before that. And I was like, and it was just a moment. And I told the story of what I know about my grandfather and that transition from Mississippi up here, and the story of my great grandmother who was a midwife in Florida. And what I know about the decisions and the choices that my people, that my direct family members made transitioning from the South to the North, the Great Migration, which is exactly the artwork of Jacob Lawrence. Jacob Lawrence does an incredible 60-page panel of artwork teaching the story of the Great Migration. The many, 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 many Black folks that transitioned, that moved, that in many cases snuck out of the South to come up North. That I have people in my life close enough that have nurtured me with that story and that journey. But guess what? The Great Migration ain't even in the curriculum, not for real. And so I found myself doing this thing, connecting with especially Black folks, Black American folks whose history and ancestry is in this country. Now that's become this new sort of invitation, or not challenge, but push to say, do you know the story? Can you tell the story of your people in this country migrating up North? And so even as I tell that story, it just brings joy. It brings centering, and particularly as a Black American person, and I emphasize Black American. I've shifted for a significant time. I've always had a reaction to brainstorming and exploring the use of African American, but I think there's something really significant about identifying as a Black American. There's an element of the unknown, right? That many of us embrace around this concept of Blackness, the power of elements of the unknown and what is created despite the unknown, us, we as a collective, as a people. And so I am, as I mentioned earlier, above and beyond proud and operating with this level of motivation around teaching, around enrolling the world, engaging the world, but particularly that journey that Black children experience when you learn and discover yourself and learn and discover your people, that sense of self that is emphasized and that is centered. And there's so much of this that's like any and everybody within the vicinity benefits as well. And so it is just a joy to center, be able to center this conversation and engage you today. And so and not too long after I share a little bit about our adventures this winter, I'm excited to share with you some of the ancestors that we've emphasized in our Black consciousness curriculum. And I would love to even enroll you in my process, right? Enroll you in my process of even developing curriculum. So we'll get to that. Let me show you an image of our work this winter. So Kumep is a performing arts program that we oftentimes do things during the year. We'll go to schools, we'll go to classrooms, we'll work with teachers and all of that. But primarily the program and the work is oftentimes just done in the summer. But this is a year that we've decided to expand, to get creative. You know, COVID has you doing all kinds of wonderful things as well, right? And as it relates to resources and trying to engage people in creativity and love and community. And so we decided this winter, we just did this like impromptu winter camp. Okay, so I said, you know what? There's nobody in the Southside building, and I would love to take a bunch of kids not only to Southside but to a bunch of stages in Ithaca, right? But we call it a performance camp because all of our work is preparing for a performance. We're teachers and performers, right? Even if you're 2.5. Right. And so I had decided, yes, we'll do 3 days. And so we spent Wednesday at Southside, or Tuesday at Southside. And then Wednesday, we took over the fabulous kitchen theater. Right. And then I was like, whoa, we have 2 days. We've got time. We've got time to do more. And so then on Thursday, we went to the State Theater, took over that stage and had a blast. I had a blast estimating the number of seats in the State Theater with these children. That was like a performance in itself. But we had no audience at the State Theater, but we got to take over that stage. And then that night we had a performance at Ithaca College, right? And so you'll see them, but we had if we count some of our older teenagers, we had over 100 participants. And so I'm super excited to share with you a little bit what it looked like. So sorry, I had that up. And yes, so I think I shared with you Black Joy last time, so we'll take a look. Just loud and just making all kinds of noise. But let me show you these fantastic young people. And I will tell you that I feel like there's something happening with me. Maybe it's 40. I just turned 40, just in case anybody didn't know. I'm 20 years old twice, right? And like there's this different level of just confidence and just naming what's possible and holding people accountable and delegating stuff. I don't know. I'm gonna have to hear from some of you all about this journey, if that was or has been something striking in your life, or if you haven't hit 40 yet, maybe it's happening to you too. But I'm claiming it around time period or something. But elements of my leadership is changing and is strengthening. And so there was a way in which I have such a dynamic team that all of the logistics, the administrative pieces were really situated. And so I was super excited that we were able to engage our fantastic babies in a 3-day exploration. So we also had an artist come visit. He's originally from Ghana. His name is Edie, but he lives in Chicago. Close friends with Dr. Baruch Whitehead, who is very, very close to CAMEP. And so when he came, oh my goodness, these young people, they fell in love. I want you to watch, enjoy the dance, but don't miss out on the most fantastic double high five at the end of this video. You just can't miss it. All right, here we go. Did you see that? Tell me that wasn't perfect. Tell me that, like, she both feet in the air, just leaped all the way. You knew it was love. You knew it was joy. You knew there was full happiness. And so we have a really, really good time at CAMEP. Let me show you just so that you can see what it looked like in a few other places. And bear with me, everything's on Facebook. So it's just easy to just pull up my Facebook to show off the goods. So check us out at the Kitchen Theater. Wow, it doesn't want to show it to you today. That's all right, which is wild. Of course, not right now. This is something I've been sharing with folks a whole bunch, but it looks like there may be some funny video mess. But what I'll try one more video. And oh, I guess I can at least show you these images. So here we are at the State Theater. And this was one of the moments where we're looking at all of the seats, and we guesstimated from 109 to a gazillion seats. And we played around with all the really fantastic numbers, the outrageous numbers and fun that they were having, just being in the space. Right. And one of the significant parts of all of this for many of our young people is, one, this was new. This was new for a lot of them. And I cherish this because, you know, I had exposure to the State Theater at like 9 and 11. I remember Public Enemy came to Ithaca. I remember Alvin Ailey came to Ithaca, right? And so just these creating really explicit opportunities for our young people to see a space like the State Theater as a space that belongs to them, not only as, you know, as an audience, or not only as performers, but really embodying it and recognizing what's possible in such spaces. So we had such a good time, and I'm really hoping that at least one more video works for you all to see. But the range, I think our youngest was 2, right? And then all the way through the ages. I was able to pay our teenagers, got some grant money, and was really explicit about these babies are performing, especially my red shirts, my yellow shirts. I'm going to honor them with a little stipend. Honor that. I mean, because they demonstrated and modeled and went all out as it relates to their brilliance. So let me try and share one video. Let's see. Videos don't want to work for me today, y'all. That's so weird. Any other time, it's definitely showing. Oh, that's too bad. Just because one of the pieces of this video that I want to be able to show or for you to witness is to watch, you know, that the sense of confidence and determination that our young leaders, are like 11 to 17-year-olds, demonstrate when we come together for Connect.
Want me to try it from mine to see if it makes a difference?
Yeah, I think that last video would be really nice. Yes.
Okay, let's see. Do I dare try to make it full screen?
Yes.
Should I show the previous one?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. it, Leslie.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you so much for checking them out. And yes, I see the itty bitty one. Oh my gosh, there are some more videos. Check it out. It'll just bring you so much joy. All the drumming, the dancing, the joy. You know, the confidence, and even a little. There's a couple videos where some of the girls, you know, have a little bit of a dance off with each other, right? And so it's really really exciting the ways in which they are honoring themselves and honoring one another. And so just a couple of things that I want to share about the curriculum and some of what we shared through our performance. You know, we emphasize that it's happy camp, right? That we're working on that balancing our you know, emotions is an ongoing study, right? And we welcome our emotions, right? Because this is a mixed age group philosophy, right? It's very, very different than any sort of, you know, explicit school structuring, mirrors many of the overlap in philosophy of some of the Montessori work that I've had exposure to. I find people reach out and they're like, oh, this is similar to what we do, you know? And so I'm excited about what we're able to create and what we're able to emphasize. And like I said, we have babies across the range. So when you can get 2 to 18-year-olds to march the ABCs to a rhythm on the stage, right? And like really turn it into like a whole new hip hop song, it is phenomenal. But just recognizing the ways in which that 17-year-old can teach the 4-year-old, but also what the 4-year-old has to offer the 17-year-old. This past camp, I've been doing some yoga at a whole nother level. I've done yoga most of my life, but I've been learning a little differently about you know, training to teach and learning the anatomy and all of that and some of the breath work. So we were doing some cats and cows and doing some breathing work with the young people, but I had a lot of fun engaging them in visualization as well, right? So we would do some inhaling and exhaling of color. Right. And remember, we've got, we're crossing the curriculum because we have 2-year-olds to 18-year-olds. So we're like, oh, snap, perfect place to teach primary colors. So we inhaled red and yellow and exhale orange. And like make it this ridiculously big deal. And then we're inhaling red and blue and exhale purple, right? And last one, we inhale blue and yellow, and they know that's my favorite. And we exhale green, right? So it's really super, super fun even today. And that's just a few weeks ago to hear some parents reach out and talk about this like breath work and this visualization work that they're able to incorporate now in family flow. Right. And so there's a lot of joy in that realm. I am going to share a little bit about the Black consciousness curriculum, but I'll talk a bit about that because I want to split us up into groups to take a look at some quotes. And so we'll talk about that in just a moment. But what I will say is that with CMEP, I am letting myself dream big. I told you I was 40, right? There's no limitations. And recently, I'm sure many of you have had exposure to, it's due this week, but Creatives Rebuild New York, this proposal that essentially positions people to dream. And so that's exactly what I'm doing. And I have intentions of hiring 8 people for 2 years to be paid $65,000 a year, you know, to partner with some organizations. And then we take CMEP to a whole nother level. See, this is the plan anyway. This was a plan anyway. I wanted to do a fundraiser at the State Theater or something like that, something big, but I'll tell you what for a few very specific things. We are planning to write a children's book, right? Actually, multiple children's books, but one that we've actually started. And then there is a movie, there's a documentary that we want to create because we have almost 20 years, this summer's 19 years, 20 years of data of video, of photos, of literally raising children, right? This is what you look like in a blue shirt. Now look at you in a red shirt, a green shirt. And so it's really phenomenal, the information that we have. But not only that, I am trying to stop taking for granted what I create and like the curriculum that is formed regularly when I'm breathing. And so now it's about packaging and recognizing that we have been and are building a model that can be replicated, that can be shared. And we even have some aspirations around trying stuff in different places. But money gets weird about stuff, just like the different relationships with money and the journey to money. But fundraising is a direction. And then this grant appeared, right? And so I'm convinced that we'll get it. So I'll keep you posted, right? I'm all in. What was that, 40? Yes, big dreams, no limitations. And so I'm excited for what comes from that. I told you a movie, a children's book, the documentary, a docuseries of the video lessons, that can be shared, that can be packaged, even a radio show podcast. So one of the artists does t-shirt design. So there's graphics that we've been brainstorming, murals and sculptures, but also taking Come Up on the road. We've been invited to Elmira, Cortland, some other places that are close by, but really trying to figure out how this can be shared and even passed on to folks. The other major aspiration in these next 2 years with this grant and or fundraising support is working on a musical. Writing a musical of Comep, of a day at Comep. I have a fantastic list of 8 people that I'm enrolling in this journey. And so it's been a true breath of fresh air. Before we get into groups, because it's just that time to start to do an activity. But the other thing that I wanted to share with you about some of the work from this winter, and particularly around Black consciousness curriculum, is I selected 4 books. Right. And so we featured 4 books this winter. Dream Street, which is, oh my God, it's so good. The ABCs of Black history. I have every intention of making the ABCs of Ithaca's Black history. Then when we're done with that, we'll hit up Elmira and do the ABCs of Elmira's Black history. The John Jones plus, and then there's Cortland has a story, right? So, so we're gonna get excited about that, and especially with all of my head wraps and as a scholar, as a researcher, I'm just like so excited about the information that will be gathered. The other book that we featured this winter is a 1619 project, Born on the Water, and then the last one is Lupita's book, right? We have a long list of books that are featured as part of the COMEP curriculum, but these are the 4 that we emphasize, and we didn't have time to read them all, right? Because you saw we were jumping around and doing cartwheels and all these wonderful things. We did stop and breathe. But instead of reading all of the books as part of our time with everyone, I read the books and I selected quotes. Some of my favorite quotes from the books, and then we played around with them and turned them into songs. So I'll share with you the 1619 project, Born on the Water. The quote that I pulled, that we unpacked and will continue to unpack, because this is one of my favorite things, is, I am not ashamed. I know what my story is. Where I'm from, where I begin. You can already hear the song, right? Yes. So that is the quote from there. And this book with Sule, real beauty comes from your mind and your heart. It begins with how you see yourself, not how others see you. With this one, the ABCs of Black history, the quote or page that I emphasized was R. R is for rise, reach to the top, relentlessly striving, refusing to stop. So not only do each one of these have a song, but they're going to have some dance moves too. All right. And then the final one is Dream Street. And the quote that we emphasize here that I pulled from here is, don't wait to have a great day. You've got to create one. Okay. And so those are the four books that we emphasize for the Black Consciousness curricular work this winter. But I'm going to share a couple slides with you before I situate you to be in a few different groups, because what I want to do together is I want to do something really special. But I want to tell you the story of this. So in 2020, at Juneteenth, we decided to have a virtual Juneteenth. We decided, right? Everybody decided we were having a virtual Juneteenth. And the history of the Black Consciousness curriculum goes way back, because even back in the day when I used to teach about Ruby Bridges and before Black Lives Matter was even a significant specific movement, we were engaging, we were using this language. And Stephen Biko emphasizes Black consciousness too, just being this state of mind, right? This state of a mind being in a space of love and appreciation at a different level. So I had decided with the team that we were going to educate the community at a different level. My children, my middle son, Rowan, was wearing a Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X t-shirt one day at DeWitt. And he came home and he's like, Mama, I was at school teaching about Malcolm X to his friends who are Black students who couldn't recognize who was on his shirt, right? And so even as he was telling them, he's like teaching them and he was all proud. So we had decided as a team at Southside, we're like, you know, we're going to make a whole bunch of shirts and be walking teachers, walking educators, right? Let's teach the Black folks that are oftentimes not taught or not taught authentically, right? Let's put images on the front, and then on the back, we'll have quotes from each person. And this is deeper than just the heroes and holidays, just celebrating people and what they did. I challenged my team to not only learn about the folks, identify their favorite quotes, but emphasize what learning about this person means, right? Learning about James Baldwin means learning what? You know, and so it's just been so glorious to dive into this. And we still have these 20, and we're at Southside, we're working on another 22. But at COMEP, I'm able to teach each person more explicitly with these quotes. So I'm going to give you an example of two people. And here's what we're going to do is when you get into those groups, and some of you may prefer not to contribute, you just want to listen, but hopefully you've got some talkative folks in your space. And what it is I'm going to ask you to go to, you're going to have an opportunity to see a PDF with a whole bunch of folks. I think I have 12 on here, and we'll assign you based on the groups, at least 2 people. All right. And so the assignment is for you to learn the person, right? Acknowledge the person, their name, but to read through the quotes together. And you'll talk a little bit about what the quotes mean to you or what stands out. But I have a very specific question on a Google Doc that you all can write on, that there can be one person who's writing if you choose to write. And essentially you are completing the sentence. So we talked about with Malcolm X, learning about Malcolm X means learning about honoring, educating, and protecting oneself and one's people by any means necessary, right? And so what I'm asking you to do is to take a look at the quotes, talk a little bit about what the quotes mean, but particularly for Black children, we oftentimes don't learn about these people, right? And so as you grow up and you start discovering these incredible folks and what they have to offer, you sometimes feel robbed, right? Like, why didn't somebody teach me about this earlier or younger? So we take these prominent people and we essentially translate the messages to our very young children. So I want you thinking about the translation of some of the meaning and messages from the quotes and translating that to very young people. But my specific question is, how can we utilize the voices of these ancestors to help Black children in particular to thrive? To thrive. How can we utilize the messages of our ancestors? So Malcolm X was one that I was going to talk about and give a little example of, but I think you all have it, and I'll pass the mic on to you. But Shirley Chisholm as well. So those were the first two that I was going to talk about, but I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Leslie to start grouping people given time, because I want you to have time with each other, time with the quotes, time with some of your ideas about the depth of the messages, what they can be how they can be offered to young people. And then we'll talk about it. We'll come back and we'll talk about it. But based on the groups, we should probably assign the people to Leslie, because let's see, you'll get a link for the PDF, and that is, as I said, I'm working on building and writing curriculum. So I'm going to be using this for different things, and I'm kind of experimenting with you right now. So you'll have access to the PDF, which is the document of all the Black folks, the ancestors that we're teaching. But then there's a Google Doc. And within the Google document, you will see each of the folks and their names. Oops, wait.
So here, I have now shared 2 documents. Do you see that? And so I think I will put you in groups in a moment, but I think first everyone has to actually open up these 2 documents. Yeah.
So hold on a second, Leslie, because the first one didn't
work.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if we can just do the
PDF.
Yeah, let's just do the PDF.
Okay, let me give that a whirl. Sorry.
No, it's all right. So you will have access to a PDF, which will be a nice clean, it's like slides, it's a PowerPoint slide. It'll have the image of a person, and it will have their quotes next to it as well.
I wonder how this is gonna work. Is this going to work? So here's another try at that. Does this work? I bet it won't.
Hold on, let me see. So do we have access to the PDF that John put together?
I think.
Let me try to send something.
How are you going to send it, I wonder? Yeah, did it work? Oh, did that work for people?
I see people on here.
No.
So let me just.
Thanks, Indy, for that. No.
Oh, the last one worked. Okay, great. All right. So now, so I'm hoping that everyone, before I put you in these groups, opens up that last PDF, and then there was also a Google Doc to write in, and then Nia, you talked. Yeah, it's going to be 3 groups. So will you?
Oh, 3 groups. Okay, good. Well, so let's set that up then. So if we know we have 3 groups, let me show you. Well, I should take a look at the PDF so that we're looking at the same thing. Let's see. There's the Google Doc. Is the last one the Google Drive?
The last one should work.
Awesome. Okay, so this will pop up. Yay! So I'm still doing some work with this, but this is sort of a sneak peek, right? And playing around with this curriculum a little differently. So if we have 3 different groups,
and they're called Room 1, Room 2, and Room 3.
Good. So why don't we do this? Why don't we have room 1, and maybe somebody can put notes in the Google Doc on that. Let's have room 1 take a look at 3: Muhammad Ali, Fannie Lou Hamer, and Beverly J. Martin. Okay, and then if group 2 would look at the Frederick Douglass quotes, the Marsha P. Johnson quotes, and the James Baldwin. I might even throw, and then the last group, if you could look at the last four, because I have 10 on here. Nina Simone, Ida B. Wells. Oh, no, wait. I'm sorry. Hold on. Wait. Hold on a second. Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, okay. Okay. So I did do 10. And so let's do that. The first three, sorry, y'all, if you're getting dizzy. Muhammad Ali, Fannie Lou Hamer, Beverly J. Martin.
So room 1. Okay.
All right. And then room 2, we'll look at actually 4 of them. We'll look at Frederick Douglass, Marsha P. Johnson, James Baldwin, and the Nina Simone quotes. Right. And based on time too, like we'll talk about it, but just being with the quotes, and then we can have even more of a conversation about what's done with the quotes. But if you could start that would be great. And then for group 3, Ida B. Wells, Frances Harper, and Marcus Garvey.
Cool. And in that document, just write your responses to those.
Yeah, and so it's remember, it's completing the sentence. So let me see.
Oh yes, and it's at the top of this document.
Yep. So it's complete. Yeah, complete. Yeah, learning about Frances Harper means learning, and then you add 2 or 3 more bullets, right? You can look at what we said, right? But you can take the quotes and essentially like expand. So I'm excited to see what you do with that.
Okay, I'm opening the rooms.
Good. I'm so excited for folks to return. I could have done more. I was just like, wait, there's more. So I'm hoping that folks felt the same energy. There's just, there's so much. And these are only 10 of them. We have 10 more, and we're aiming for another set of 20. And I just am constantly thinking of different and creative ways to utilize this work that we've put together. So I'm excited to unpack some of it with you all and get a sense for like what folks know, what folks identify with, and have had exposure to, or what's new, or like a new consideration that came up as you're looking at them. But let's talk about the artwork while we wait. Like, tell me, isn't that amazing? Her name is Mariam Adib. Young Black woman in her 20s here.
Here in Ithaca.
Yeah, she's phenomenal. So in Ithaca, if you go on Clinton Street,
I can talk.
If you go on Clinton Street, at Asha, if you're like Ithacan.
I'm sorry. Oh God.
But she, on her house, is a painting of Toni Morrison. Tell me you've seen it. You've seen it? Of course you've seen it. That's Mariam Adib. Or go over to the Cancer Resource Center, and that big, beautiful pink and green and yellow and beautiful different shades of brown people. It almost looks like a flower. Honestly, you've seen it, but it's like this really beautiful image on the Cancer Resource Center. That's Mariam as well. Mariam Adib. She t-shirts, sweatshirts. I could pull out I wear most of her stuff. She's an incredible young artist. Got her MFA at Cortland. Didn't grow up here, from Albany, but her siblings grew up here. So she's got some Ithaca roots. She's on my list of 8. She's a part of the Komet family, but she's, there are, 8 people that I'm trying to take care of for 2 years to help me take the Komet brand to a whole nother level. I'm just excited. It's an opportunity to employ people. On my list, there's 7 Black folks, 1 white woman. I'm like, yes, let's honor artists with the finances. That money's going to come. It's just going to happen. But if for some reason something goes left, we'll raise it. It'll come. But yeah, so thank you so much for taking the time to connect with one another. I'm not sure if folks were able to stay. There's just 10 more minutes of our time. I don't know about you, but I was excited. I could have done more. There were additional thoughts that were coming to mind, but I'm excited to see some of you can share some of the details, but largely I just want to know what this experience was like for you. Yeah, even if it's just a thought or just like the emotions, dealing with the assignment, the journey, or whatever. What was this like for you?
In my room, we read them all out loud, and it was beautiful to hear them, I thought.
Ooh, okay, beautiful. Good. Reading them out loud is definitely a thing. Some of us, we try and read it out loud, like to a rhythm, sometimes. And so there's a song that we've been working on since the summer too, that highlights just a couple of the different quotes, but hearing them aloud, I agree, Leslie, is extremely powerful. Yes, Kiara, welcome. What was that experience like for you?
Hello. So I thought it was it's actually, I'm so used to actually analyzing people's works, literary works, in more of a formal, a formal way of analyzing. And I think that it was just really nice to be able to just, kind of talk through. I didn't get a chance to really talk through, but I was able to really take a look at the entire document, and just to see the types of the quotes that were being pulled from each of the individuals as well. Ida B. Wells, my favorite, James Baldwin, and even Nina Simone. Is just being able, and then just like you said, because I'm also a poet, so when you be able to take someone else's words and kind of almost reiterate it, and with your own twist, but still incorporating, the intentionality behind those artists. It was just like, it's always, I love to just sit and talk about the great works. Like, I love it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So good. Yes, I love that. The emphasis on like the approach, right? Like, yes, there's a place for all the academic analysis and all that. And you and I both love it. And it serves. But then there's this opportunity to like breathe with the work a little differently. Like there's less judgment, right? There are more flowers. There's more like an exploration, especially as we think about, what can be taught is from what we feel like we've learned, right? And so it's so cool for me. And we're still I mean, like I said, the babies are all different ages. And by babies, I mean 2 to 18. So they're really in different places about their understanding, but it's so amazing to translate and then have younger people attempt to translate and then have another, and then for them to make sense of some of the concepts. We spent a lot of time with Muhammad Ali, just so you know, as well. Everybody's great at Kamep, and we make them say it over and over again in front of a mirror. So it's a central part of the curriculum. But more, what was this like for you? Because I could definitely talk about it for a while, but I'd love to hear some more of your voices. Mr. Jonathan, what was this like for you? What was it, just any part of it?
Yeah, I mean, what I loved was, of course, there were so many beautiful phrases and all these quotes, so many beautiful words. And I love to hear what someone resonated with. Oh yeah, I got that one too, I love to see where people landed with that. Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Beautiful. No, thank you so much. Good. If you don't mind, I'm actually going to pull it up. So Leslie, why don't you, if you don't mind, just call on some folks that may want to breathe, may want to process with us. And this is great. There's no judgment involved. It's literally just, what are you doing with this information? Look at what we did with it. Look what we did with it in just 10 minutes. All right. So others, what's happening for you? Or what happened? And or what stands out for you about the direction that someone may have taken a concept, or maybe somebody has a better question that will engage folks in sharing. I just want to hear a few more voices with the time period that we have.
Well, our group was trying to synthesize the 3 or 4 things that each person said, and that was sometimes a bit of a linguistic stretch, how to get a sentence that includes a little bit of everything that they've mentioned. And I mean, it raises the question of what a quote is.
Yeah.
It's not a summary of a person's life work. It's a little snapshot of something, and so that seems, pedagogically maybe an interesting how to unpack a quote and think about the context in which it was. Was it written? Was it spoken? Was it spoken in anger because of something? Was it a proclamation after a long life of thought? Was it, a quote is a potentially really powerful thing, but it's also
There's some
can
contextual
be a
reality.
dangerous thing if it's out of context. And
That's right. Mm-hmm.
but we had some pretty clever sentences that came out of our synthesis operations.
Oh, good. Let's check them out. So any others, just, and some of it is like, you can dive into some of the specifics of what you shared, but just, I'm really curious about what the experience was like, even if it's just a word to describe how you feel about engaging in this.
I'm seeing in the chat, Indy Casey had a really nice here said, I got the gift of time to delve into the history of Beverly J. Martin, whose school is my child's future elementary school. Really nice.
So, right. So we have those big names, right? Those national names, but we don't mess around. We got big names right here at home. So we have one, Beverly J. Martin. We have a Jacqueline Elizabeth Melton Scott. We're hoping to do a Cecil Malone, just a Diane Sams, right? And then we're also playing around with some living legends, right? Like, what would it be like if, somebody's just walking around with a shirt with your face on it, honoring you. So we've got some living legends here in Ithaca that we're considering doing images of, including my father, Phoebe Brown, maybe Ken Glover, so that we can be these walking teachers of their glorious messages. So yeah. I'm a little obsessed with quotes and just like back in quotes. It's the poetry, it's the poet element of things too. But this helps me. This gives me really great feedback with, just you engaging in the work, but also observing some elements of the journey. There are so many different directions that we'll take with not just these 20, these quotes, but just the concept, the work, the curriculum that can be developed, that can be formed, that's linked to all different kinds of concepts, right? Like this quote with Frederick Douglass around reading. It's massive. It's deep. Do you know the reading conditions of our children here in Ithaca, New York? Do you know the reading conditions of Black children in Ithaca, New York? In fact, like between 2017 and 2019, the reading scores dropped significantly. Yes, no worries. I tried to address some people about it. But rooted in it is like, it's explicit, it's painful. All of our babies are far lower, it seems, in large numbers, right? Even my college students are struggling with writing at a different level. Like something is changing, okay? And I knew that when I came back home to Ithaca, and I was a school psychologist at Beverly J. Martin, and they weren't doing Beauty and the Beast anymore. And I'm like, what? Beauty and the Beast was everything when we were kids. Like beauty, being able to do theater, being able to tell a story and do all this. And it turns out it's like reading levels are different than they were even when we were here. So yeah, there's so engaging young people in even this reflecting on their relationship with reading, understanding the power of reading, but also understanding the history of reading linked to that power and the reality that many of us, it was illegal. It was illegal. Right. And so what, and why, and then what did Frederick Douglass in his sharing and in his explorations, in his representation, what does he have to offer us about the relationship with reading? Right. So I get all types of geeked up, for sure. But we are
We are.
exactly at time.
We totally are. And man, this was really great. Thank you so much for being here and presenting this material. And I guess we have to call it, but thank you all for coming. It was really, really great.
No, it's such a joy. I really appreciate this intimate connection. I liked having a smaller group of folks this evening. And so I'm truly grateful. Keep your ears and eyes wide open. And, you know, a whole bunch of wonderful things to come. So thank you for your time.
Good luck with the grant.
Thank you for being here.
Yes! Oh, don't worry. You're going to find out. I'll make sure everybody knows. Just put it out there, right? Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye all.
Have a beautiful evening.
Thank you.
Good night.